All right, it was going to show up eventually. I don't even think the slow start doomed Oregon here. UCLA hit a bunch of tough shots. At some level, you got to tip your cap and say, you know what? They hit shots. But Oregon started hitting threes. Jackson Shelstad hit a late three to give Oregon the lead with 10 seconds left. And then UCLA hits a step back, fall away, Nate Bittle, hand in the face, banked in three with 4/10 of a second left. Okay, what are you going to do? Now, there was a goaltend that was overturned that should not have been overturned. Absolutely should not. Was called a goaltend on the floor, took 2 points away from Oregon with 1:17 to go in the ball game. I do not believe that call was correctly adjudicated. But this was not a game that Oregon lost, and I felt, they're going to start to stumble. No, UCLA is a good team, number one. And number two, they hit a bunch of tough shots. They shot the three better than they had all season. Sure, there were some defensive moments that could have been better, but this is college basketball, not college football. You're not going to go undefeated, even if you end up getting a top 3 or 4 seed by the end of the year, which is certainly the goal after the hot start for Oregon at 8-0, 8-0, 9-0, something like that. I think that Oregon is completely fine. They get a much more manageable part of their schedule upcoming, and I expect them to win those games and do so pretty comfortably. They should do it comfortably. They lose to UCLA 73-71. They're 9-1. 9-1. They split with USC and UCLA, win on the road, lose at home. There are some inconsistencies that still could be worked out, but I mean, Nate Bittle is awesome offensively. And Oregon went 9 of 21 from 3. That's all they need. This doesn't have to be an explosive three-point shooting team. You've got a bunch of low-post scoring. KJ Evans did some nice things on offense. Shelstad can score inside out. Nate Bittle is just a force to be reckoned with at both ends of the floor. And he defended the final sequence really well. The guy got lucky. Let's call it how it was. But you can't allow a team to shoot 12 of 23 from beyond the arc. That certainly has to improve. But the upcoming schedule for Oregon goes like this. Stephen F. Austin, that is a week from yesterday when this show is coming out. Then they play Stanford, who's not that good. Then they play Weber State, and then Big Ten play begins. So they should, let's emphasize should, college basketball, crazy things can happen here. They should be 12-1 going into Big Ten play, still ranked inside the top 25. This is not a crushing loss. This was not, oh my gosh, everything came to a head here. UCLA played a good game. Oregon played a good game. It was back and forth. There were big shots here, big shots there. I was as encouraged coming out of a loss here as I possibly could be. But yeah, it felt like Oregon still had a little bit more magic in them. They got a couple stops. Bittle forced a turnover after the goaltend was taken off the board and 2 points were removed, which I don't think is the correct call. Oregon stays focused. They stay in it. UCLA blows an assignment. Shelstad hits the three. That's the best thing from this game, frankly. Jackson Shelstad hit threes. That is a major development. He was 3 of 4 from beyond the arc. That's huge. He's not going to go 3 of 4 every game, but that guy needs to see the ball go through the net from distance. And he's hit a couple of big shots from 3 over the last 2 games, one of which, of course, leads to a win, and one should have but did not. So you're going to have these moments throughout the course of the season. The bounce back, I expect to be strong record-wise. I hope the strong play will continue as well. Stephen F. Austin's not to be trifled with, nor is Stanford. But, yeah, Oregon should be able to win those games. But Shelstad and Bittle, going combined 5 of 7 from 3. I have said for a while, if those guys start hitting threes, this offense is going to be completely unleashed. And that's the way it felt. It was a sigh of relief. It was like, finally, those guys are seeing shots go down. And that's what they need, more than anything. Keyshawn Barthelemy is still the same guy. Bamba had a terrible game. He missed his only shot. He just couldn't get going. He had 5 turnovers and 1 shot attempt. Wasn't a good game for him. And Brandon Angel wasn't as efficient as normal. Not everyone's going to play their best game every single time out. But overall, I am really encouraged. I am encouraged with how this team is playing. It is disappointing to lose that game. It is not crushing for the resume or the at-large or anything like that. They're going to have to do well in conference play, and the Big Ten is looking strong as usual. Wisconsin's really good. Illinois is really good. Purdue is, of course, going to be good again, much better than they are in football. Of course, Purdue's got a new head football coach now, Barry Odom from UNLV, but they're fine. They're completely. Was it annoying to lose this game because you lose by 2 on a desperation banked in 3 from an angle? Like it was a 1 in 100 shot, and it goes in. Like, okay, whatever. But shout out to the crowd. They showed up, wanted to see that, absolutely did, and very much want to see that continue throughout the course of the season, especially as Big Ten play begins. Speaking of the Big Ten, there were a couple of notable stumbles here. I've gotten questions and comments from people about the broadcast crew. I haven't done a full rewatch yet. When I do, I will have thoughts. I, of course, in the announcer department, very opinionated. People who were talking to me at the alumni tailgate, I'm sure you got that sense very quickly. When it comes to announcing, I have very strong and specific opinions because it is my craft, it is my passion, it's something I take very seriously. So I'll share thoughts and hear how Nessler and Danielson did, at least in my view. I love those guys, have my whole life, and everybody has an off day. Here's where the Big Ten screwed up. 2 things, and neither one was acceptable. One of them, James Franklin's got a beef. I'll get to that in a sec. The Big Ten, not once, but twice during the conference championship game. I know this is a little thing, but Ty Burrell is a pretty famous Oregon alum. He was twice put up onto the jumbo screens inside Lucas Oil Stadium as a famous alum of Penn State. That is an all-time screw-up. That is an all-time screw. That's like putting up a picture of Tinker Hatfield and being like, yeah, notable Wisconsin alum, Tinker Hatfield. Or great Oregon football player, Jake Browning. Like guys, what are we doing? And then to not correct it, again, small thing, but that annoyed me. That annoyed me. I cannot stand when organizations that should have a higher level of attention to detail just don't. And that wasn't the only thing. So James Franklin in his post-game press conference said many things. He said that Dan Lanning's got tremendous resources. Like he's a frustrated coach at the end of the game. He's saying what his fan base wants to hear and what he's legitimately feeling. He's not thinking so much as he's just feeling and talking. I don't begrudge him that much for that. I definitely don't begrudge him for complaining about the band. So somehow, the place where the Big Ten media post-game press conferences were set up was so close to where the Oregon band was performing that, like, after the game, when it was all over, Oregon's band starts playing the fight song. And James Franklin says, hey, I don't mind them playing, but this is kind of a JV setup here. And I saw online, he was taking some flack for that. I'm going, why is James Franklin in the wrong? He has to come to this press conference, which he doesn't want to do. Officials would never have to do that, by the way, because, like on the goaltend in the Oregon UCLA basketball game, I'd love to see the officials give us an explanation, but, they're adults, so why would we hold them accountable? That's a completely ridiculous notion. Anyway, so James Franklin, along with 2 kids under the age of 23, are there trying to answer questions, and they can't because the band is playing. How is that? I've never even seen that, where you have a media room that could be that heavily influenced by noise that is taking place over on the football field. So he calls it a JV setup, and then people are saying, oh man, I don't know if he needed to be that harsh. Like, what are you talking about? That's embarrassing. That's completely embarrassing that your conference championship game, post-game presser is able to be interrupted by the band. It didn't occur to anybody that you should have a room that is soundproofed off from the rest of, everything, the celebration that's going on. So I'm with James Franklin on that one. I'm not with him on the penalty discrepancy. Which face mask did you want to take back? Or which personal foul? Like early in the game, they were grabbing Jordan James' face mask and they kept throwing the flags. Which one of those do you want to take back? Like, yeah, Oregon had fewer penalty yards than Penn State. Those early penalties, there were 3 15-yarders against the Nittany Lions in the first quarter that all helped Oregon move the ball down the field. I mean, they were moving it down the field at will anyway, but certainly it doesn't hurt to get a free 15 yards. If they don't grab the face mask, Jordan James converts one of those 4th downs. I don't know about the other plays. Like, I mean, I don't know which one you're taking back there exactly. I think he was frustrated at the lack of penalties on Oregon sometimes. They definitely missed an ineligible man down the field on the Tez Johnson touchdown, 100%. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. As I've said about officiating for a very long time, I expect it to be wrong, and I'm just pleasantly surprised when they get it right. But I was really surprised. Like, I had a great time of the game. The environment was good. Penn State fans were great. Oregon fans, of course, were awesome. There were about 67,000 people there, which is a good turnout. And the Penn State fans, they were loud. That was basically a road game for Oregon, and they got it done anyway, of course. But there were some procedural things. There were other ones as well that I need not dive into. But those things stood out to me as like, what are you guys doing? What do you do? What are we doing here? How did you allow for this to happen? How did the Ty Burrell thing happen not once but twice? Nobody noticed. Nobody caught it. Or does nobody care? I don't know. Probably a mistake and nobody caught it. Hence why I'm speaking out. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.